economic development, growth and infrastructure management, fiscal stewardship, and quality of life.
What themes do you guys see up there?
I think it's hard not to see those same four. I mean, you asked for 15 different answers, and it's remarkable how many of them were fairly close in the way they aligned with one another.
You know, and I will tell you, I think, the reality is, which we often lose sight of in the middle of our ongoing dialogue and planning, many times we have very similar ends in mind. We have honest differences of opinion sometimes on how best to get there, which is good, because you get more ideas on the table to consider. But at the end of the day, we have to remind ourselves of the ends in mind that unite us, I think, as well, as you debate the right tactics at times. It never ceases to amaze me when you get 15 different ideas that many times when you really boil it down, you got 4 critical ones that are actually very common. As a starting point, Cheryl,
I'm sorry about this, guys.
Go ahead, Steve.
I interrupted again. I apologize. But I was going to mention, that's the beauty of outcome-based strategic planning, is that we all see where we want to be. And you're absolutely right. We may have different points of view as to how to get there, but if we focus on the objective, on the outcome, it makes it a lot easier to get past some of those conflicts in method or strategy, methodology or tactics, and really focus on what it's going to take for us to get to where we need to be.
Right. Just a starting point, I think there's much more meat on the bones to put on and around those, but as a starting point, I think it's a nice refresher to remind ourselves of what the resources represented in those line by lines are really speak to, which is the ends in mind that we have in common. Ben, is there something you want to say by way of wrapping?
Yeah, first of all, this is exactly why I've spent my career in government, because when you look at these 3 pages, entities like Gardner can change, not just in our lifetime, but year to year. And this is the start of it right here. And the impact that local government has on our community is phenomenal. When you establish a strategic plan, you align your resources and have the discussion that gets us to these goals, the community changes. You become high performing. The discussion that you have with staff now becomes about strategies and tactics. The argument becomes how to best deploy those resources, and you become a better entity. Seen it time and time again. Entities that go from dilapidated, low poverty-stricken entities to mega players in the metro. Sure, they still come with their problems. They still have those day-to-day problems that still have to be solved. But you know what? That discussion now changed. And those resources that start coming in, it changes the flavor and the look of a community. And you can make it become what you want it to be by having these kind of discussions. You guys have done a lot of work tonight in a very short amount of time. And for that, I think you ought to applaud yourself. You've got a lot of work to do, obviously, but I think the discussion from here will change. Based on what you've done tonight, I believe it'll change. So as far as next steps are concerned, Cheryl, you want to enlighten us?
I do. First, I want to just say that I'm really pleased to be able to kind of introduce for the first time here at the city a new concept of doing budgeting, and that is looking at kind of budgeting for outcomes. I think it's going to be very, very meaningful for us to kind of set a vision, set a mission statement, set some core values as we continue to move forward with the business community as well as the residents. So where do we go from here? Next steps. Tomorrow morning, the leadership team and I will meet. We'll start to synthesize some of the information that we heard here tonight. We will come back to you for kind of the first budget workshop, kind of with some strategies, and kind of ask you to take a look at it and confirm that we heard correctly tonight what you said, and then we'll align the various department budgets to kind of move forward in the direction of accomplishing some of the things that you've talked about. We'll ask you again, is this kind of the direction that you want to move forward in? Are these the appropriate strategies? And from that point, we'll be able to get us to the August budget deadline, looking at more outcomes and priorities. So, thank you very much for your support of this concept.
Well, and thanks for, you all from Alan, Gibbs, and Albert,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. For coming and presenting, and Cheryl for helping bring this idea here. And I don't know about everybody else up here, but I would imagine that we're all looking forward to doing this next year, where the life cycle's a little bit longer, and we do things like get that citizen involvement starting in January, so that it follows more along the life cycle that was referenced in the presentation material. But it's great to get started, and want to thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah. All right. All right, we've got one other item on the agenda for this evening. One of the council members had asked that we have a discussion about the vacancy on the council, especially as it's not noted on here, but especially as it was references Kansas statute 14-308. Anybody want to lead off that discussion? Because I'm not sure where we're...
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
I was the person that, or the council member that requested it be put on there, and I appreciate you allowing us to talk about it. You know, I guess to start off with, let's face it, this last election was a game changer. I mean, we had two incumbents that were not only apparently well-funded, but, you know, well-respected in the community, replaced by you know, new people, and or changes, I guess. And then even more importantly, we were back to 3 elected council members and 2 appointed ones, whereas, you know, many times in the last 4 years, it's always been the opposite. So I think the citizens really have told us that they're tired of business as usual, and they want to see some process improvement. So I think we have a duty as a governing body to review those laws which govern us in our, you know, the 6-person body, and decide whether those, you know, those laws and ordinances are applicable to, you know, progress in the future, or whether they're sort of remnants of past administrations. So the most compelling reason I think we have, and one of the largest decisions that we're going to be making, one of the most important decisions I think, is filling Mayor Morrow's vacancy with an appointment. And as I, you know, delved into the history and research of how we did that in the past, I think there's, you know, 2 components that we have to consider discussing. The first is Charter Ordinance 19, which does a couple things that really, again, are remnants of a previous administration. One is requires a 4-person quorum to do business in the city, whereas the state, in its best guidance, requires only 3 for a second-class city. And also, it only addresses single vacancies when, of course, not too long ago, we had multiple vacancies. In fact, we had more vacancies than we had sitting council members. So I think it's an artifact that needs to be fixed, and a problem that needs to be fixed. And then secondly, there's a Kansas statute, and I think actually, Mayor, you know more about it than
14-308.
There we go. And that basically sets up a council to fail in not so many, I guess in a weird manner. Basically, if we don't, if you bring someone up for appointment and we deny them that appointment, we have to make a resolution that says they are unfit or unqualified. Is that how you see that?
Well, actually, 14-308 is...
Oh, I'm sorry, 14-308 is the state statute.
It's the
Yeah.
ordinance that does that.
Yeah, and you're thinking about,
It's House Bill
16-12-126.
Okay, that's it.